So with Doom Eternal and Doom 2016 both platinumed, and I have some time until Dark Ages releases, I decided I needed to platinum another game in the meantime. And after some careful consideration, I chose Mafia 2 was first released back in 2010 and came out to a 74 Metacritic. I don't know what these critics were thinking, but maybe with the remaster in 2020, they redeemed themselves? With these scores, you'd think this game is bad, but nope. As good as the Mafia 1 remake is, this game competes with it in every single way. Mafia 2 is a 4 out of 10 difficulty and takes 25 hours to platinum. But you know me, I completed it in 5 less hours. The 2 steps to get this platinum is step 1, complete the main story in hard to avoid a second playthrough, and get all the Playboy magazines, and of course missable trophies. And step 2, clean up all the other collectibles and all the other miscellaneous trophies. Mafia 2 starts off with the main character Vito as he recaps his life and the story of the entire game. He starts off by talking about his childhood and how he and his family moved from Sicily to Empire Bay where the game takes place. So after growing up, Vito runs into Joe, his best friend and main companion for the entire story, and with Joe's help, they rob stores for some money until Vito gets caught and is forced to enlist in World War II, where the main story really begins in Chapter 1. This mission is super short, but it has us fighting in Sicily where we take over this town. This mission alone really shows the age of this game since the guns and the movement are just plain awful. I'm not gonna lie, it is 15 years old, so I'll cut it some slack. After making it to the end at the top of this building and taking out the machine gunner, we get ambushed by the Italians and they massacre everyone, but not Vito. Plot armor is undefeated. But before Vito gets finished off by the Italians, some Sicilian mob boss named Don Callio shows up and shuts down the Italian soldiers to cease fire, and they do just that. Now you might think this guy would be important, cause I did, but nope, you never see this guy again. After escaping, we popped our first trophy. Now Vito being injured, we are shipped back to Empire Bay, and we start. Chapter 2 is pretty much the first real chapter, in my opinion, and the start of the game. With Vito being on injured leave from the war, Joe makes some calls and gives Vito some fraudulent paperwork to make him on permanent leave. Joe's an actual real one. Now with Vito back in Empire Bay permanently, we take up Joe's offer with the Mafia, but before fully being immersed in the family, we need to see our family first. At this split household, we have a reunion with Vito's mom and sister, and start staying in his old room for the time being. After waking up and leaving the apartment, we find our sister being hustled by some chopped ass dude, and Vito doesn't take kindly to that and starts a fist fight. Now this is a scripted fight and it's basically the tutorial for fist fighting in the game. After knocking him out, I earned my next trophy. I got my next trophy on the walk to Joe's apartment when I ran my first chapter specific event. I thought each chapter was going to have one of these or there's going to be more than 6, but less guide found the better in my opinion. But anyway, this event consisted of Vito rudely staring at some couple as the husband struggles to fix the car, and while they argue back and forth. Classic 40s couple behavior. With the husband storming off, we swoop in and fix her car for her instead of her husband. Ugh, men, am I right, ladies? After fixing the engine, I got the trophy. Okay, with her engine fixed, we get back to the main task at hand, meeting up with Joe. At Joe's apartment, he lets us in, we find out Joe's a player. He fooled me. I didn't know he had a game like that. We then caught up again inside of the apartment, and right before we were about to leave, I stole a fun looking magazine on his coffee table. Speaking of these magazines, these are Playboy magazines that I mentioned earlier. Every Mafia game has these, and they are just another form of collectibles. Now, of course, I can't show these because we're on YouTube, so yeah, be freaking in your own time. After leaving the apartment, Joe takes around the town, meeting up with all of his new buddies he met while Vito was in war. We first met Giuseppe, who teaches us how to lockpick, and with those new lockpicks, we go outside and steal Vito a brand new car. And now with this car, Joe takes us to Tommy, a mechanic to help us change the plates on our new car and upgrade the tune, and pops me a trophy for upgrading my car to level 1. The last person we visit is Mike Brewski, a junkyard owner who helps us get our first job back from the war, even though Vito's mom wants him to get a real job like his dad. But does she know how scary a job application is? For this job, Mike wanted us to steal a nice car and bring it back to him for some parts for a customer. All I did was hop his fence and talk to this guy and he gave me his car. It's what I would say if I didn't massacre everyone in the parking lot and steal a car and speed away. Arriving back at Mike's, we popped the trophy for my efforts. The chapter ends with Vito crashing at Joe's apartment on his kitchen couch. I mean, who has a kitchen couch? And gives us the trophy. Chapter 3 started out with Vito going out in his zone to find a real job. I know, jump scare warning for y'all in my comment section. The warehouse is where Vito's dad used to work before he passed away, so it only makes sense for him to work here. But this job sucks. Moving box after box onto a truck for only 10 bucks for the whole day. Yeah, I walked out of that bit faster than a fat kid running to lunch. However, before I get into my car, we get pulled into Derek's office and he offers me a real job to scare dock workers into coughing up some money. Pretty much all of the workers fold under Vito's aura and give up some money, but one tough guy who wanted to be different. So of course I got into a fight with him until I dropped him and stole his money and gave it back to Derek for a cut and a trophy. Midway through the chapter, we get tasked with stealing some ration stamps for the family. There's a chapter-specific trophy at this section is for stealing the ration stamps without triggering their alarm. I thought this was going to be easy, but I struggled over and over again. The AI in this game is terrible. I mean, for starters, I'll go to strangle this guy, but then Vito would strangle the chair, but then the guy would still fall over, but then I would get caught anyway. I seriously did this for over 10 minutes until I finally made it into the basement, turn off the alarm in its entirety. So now with the alarm off, I snuck my way back upstairs into the safe room with the alarm off. Vito easily cracked it open and snuck away over the fence and got the trophy. Now, I thought mission was over, but boy was I mistaken, because apparently those ration stamps still expire at midnight. So now we have to do a time drop-off mission where we drive to various gas stations across the city so they can cash them. This didn't really take long, because all you do is drive to multiple gas stations and drop off ration stamps. And upon delivering my last ration stamp to the last gas station, I got a trophy for completing it in time. With Vito feeling tired after a long day, we head back to Joe's kitchen couch and go to sleep and pop the next story trophy. Chapter 4 started off with Vito meeting up with Joe and Henry to go over some plans for a jewelry heist. The heist consisted of Vito and Joe putting on some disguises and sneaking into the jewelry store and robbing all of the jewelry, until some Irish mobsters showed up and tried robbing the same store for themselves. This results in a massive shootout between Vito and Joe, the Irish, and the cops. The shootout lasted like 10 minutes and brought us to the rooftop where we shimmied across a billboard, where we were finally able to outrun the cops and witness the bitch-ass Irish being arrested, and we escape into the stolen car back to Joe's apartment. Then we fall asleep on his couch and get the Chapter 4 trophy. Super quick chapter. At the start of Chapter 5, we meet Joe's new girl, who not even 2 minutes later gets rear-ended going out of Joe's apartment. Classic. But this encounter did earn me a trophy since the dude was arguing with the lady about how it was her fault, so I had to teach him a lesson. I knocked him out right in the street and got the trophy. Also, I think I impressed her so much that she was all up on me, but I'm loyal to Joe, and I declined her invitation. Okay, so the main part of the chapter has to go into another meeting with Joe and Henry just to discuss some family business. During the conversation, we get introduced to Luca and Alberto, the two top guys in the family. They offer us a position in the family for $5,000 each if the next job goes well. Speaking of the next job, it needed all three of us to go whack someone and report back to Luca. Before going to the location, we pulled up to Harry to grab an LMG and some ammo for the hit, but instead of just instantly leaving, we got into a conversation with Harry talking about the war. So with that side quest over, we meet up with Joe and Henry and start the attack. At the start of the assault, I got my next trophy after I got my 50th kill. This mission was 10 times harder than any of the others before it. Now, I was playing on hard, but I don't think that's the main issue. There are like 3 dudes with shotguns in this building hiding in the worst spots. I think I died to this dude in the steps like 10 times. And just like the other Mafia game, the checkpoint system in this game is the worst I've ever seen. Like, I could be on the highest floor in the building and die, and maybe respawn all the way to the bottom floor of the building. It's just straight up terrible. But after I actually made it to the top without getting griefed, we found the guy, and instead of just popping him, he shoots Henry, and then we light him up. It makes perfect sense. With Henry now bleeding out, we've run out of the collapsing building while fighting more enemies, and drive into the secret doctor so we can be patched up. The chapter ends with Vito giving us extra $2,000 to pay off their father's debt from the Mafia, and then heads back to Joe's kitchen couch to end the chapter and give him an next trophy. After waking up in the morning and leaving the apartment, we get ambushed by 3 undercover cops and get taken into custody. So basically what happened is that one of those gas station attendants that we gave the ration stamps to ratted us out to the cops and got us arrested. Oh, and our lawyer back there absolutely sucked. He gave us a 10-year sentence for ration stamps. I can't, bro. So now with Vito in jail, this is where Chapter 5 takes place. After a couple of days in prison, Vito gets a message from Joe to meet some dude named Leo Galante. He can help us survive in prison. So while asking around for Leo, we run into Brian O'Neill, the dumb Irish dude from the jewelry heist who got arrested, and we got into a fist fight with him in the prison yard. Somehow we lose the fight and get thrown into solitary confinement for 2 days, until we do get visited by Leo, who brings us into his protection and into his prison fighting ring. So yeah, pretty much the main part of this chapter is fight after fight in the prison. So after a couple of prison fights, a couple of toilets cleaned, and fending off being touched in the showers, I'm actually not kidding, we get visited by our sister who tells us that she's getting married and that their mom is sick. A week after the visit, she comes back and tells us that Vito's mom has died. It makes it even worse, he can't go to the funeral because he's in jail. The last part of this chapter has going to settle the score with O'Neill. Find him getting a pump in the gym, and we just started on a long fist fight with him, since I think this dude is a super soldier. But anyway, after he does draw a knife on us, we steal it off of him and finally kill him for good. Now the leader of the Irish dead, at least I think, Leo invites Vito to live in his cell for the time being, and ends the chapter and gets us another chapter trophy. With the help of Leo, he gets Vito out of jail 4 years earlier in 1951. And that's where we begin Chapter 7. This chapter is a classic filler chapter. It was filled with a reunion with Joe and an introduction to another Mafia family in the Falcones. Joe's being passed around more than OF girl. So now with Joe, Eddie, and Vito, we go out into the city and party all night to celebrate getting out of jail. While in the club, Eddie and Vito talk about the Mafia and why they joined the business at all. And at the end of the conversation, Eddie invites Vito to work with the Falcone family alongside Joe. And of course, Vito agrees. With Joe and Eddie now drunk, we are forced to drive them home, but not before having to do an unskippable side quest when we find out Eddie has a dead body rotting in his trunk for 4 days. Classic Eddie, and now we are tasked to bury it in the hills. When we arrive at the observatory, Eddie and Joe are too drunk to bear the smell of the body, so Vito puts the body in an already conveniently dug hole and buries it. With the body taken care of, we drop Joe and Eddie off at Joe's apartment and the chapter at Vito's new apartment, and get the Chapter 7 trophy. Chapter 8 then began with Vito and Joe selling some stolen cigarettes out of a truck for a couple of hours until some tough guy greasers decided to show up and demand we give them 10 cartons for free since we are operating in their quote-unquote territory. I'm not scared of these clowns. They torched the truck. So in order to get payback, we all pull up to their bar with Tommy guns and Molotovs and destroy the place like they destroyed the truck. Now let's be honest, that's not enough. So the next part of the mission took us to their actual hideout in the Foundry. After we arrived, we have a nice chat with them until one of them pulls out a gun and tries shooting Joe, but Marty saved the day and starts a massive shootout between us and the greasers. This shootout lasted not even lying like 25 minutes, probably the hardest fight in the entire game, except for maybe the ending fight. This gunfight spans across the entire factory grounds and had us killing all the greasers to put an end to their nonsense. At the end of the shootout, we help ourselves with some hot rods so we can sell them for some money because I forgot to say, but the truck that the greaser exploded was sorta Eddie's and he paid for all those cigarettes and needs the money back. I then dropped off the 2 hot rods at Derek with the help of Joe and got enough money to pay back Eddie, and end the chapter on a good note. At the start of chapter 9, we get called to the Falcon and discuss something with Eddie, and we get introduced to Carlo Falcone. He's basically Carmine Falcone from Batman, but whatever, he is the head of the Falcone family. He does ask us a question about Luca and Alberto and how we feel about them. Vito explains that they tried to steal $5 grand from him and let him rot in jail after they hired his lawyer so he didn't snitch on the family. Before leaving, Carlo tells Vito that he fears Clemente is putting a hit on him since they have taken 3 of his guys including his accountant, and wants Vito to tell Luca to where they are keeping them captive. After tailing Luca for a little bit, he leads us to the Clemente slaughterhouse where he is holding them captive. Now of course we can't just walk through the front door even though I did try. We have to take a detour in order to make it into the slaughterhouse. So the only logical reason was to go to the sewer. And I did easily make it in the compound this way, you know, I was gross, but whatever. After sneaking into the slaughterhouse and past all the enemies, we run into Luca and his goons torturing and interrogating our guys.
Hey! Hey, somebody's over there! Hey, who the fuck are you supposed to be? Jesus Christ, what is Captain Shitbag here to save the day?
Shut the fuck up, Luca.
Hey, I know you. You're the chump who was hanging around with that moron, Barbaro. I thought you was still rotting in the can. What the fuck you think you're doing here? So, you joined up with Falcone, huh? Well, I'll tell you what. If you knew what was really going on, you'd realize that you was better off in jail.
The peaceful conversation led into another shootout against our former employers inside the slaughterhouse. The shootout ended when we killed everyone inside and Luca locked himself in the office. We break down the door into the office and pretty much kill Luca, even though we never see it. Tony just implies he's gonna go into the machine. Back at the Falcon, Eddie forced Vito to get some new clothes since he smelled because of the sewer. So I had to take Vito to get a new dress shirt so he can impress the rest of the family at the meeting. Inside that meeting were all the higher ups in the family, Carlo, Eddie, the accountant we just saved, and Leo. Still to this day, I don't know why Leo is here since he's part of a different family, but whatever. At the end of the meeting, Vito is sworn into the Falcone crime family and is officially a part of the Mafia. Chapters end with a montage of Joe and Vito working for their family and celebrating. The montage does end with Vito buying a brand new house, and we finally end the chapter. At the start of the next chapter, the family holds a meeting since after we killed Luca and a ton of his men, Clemente isn't too happy and starts a war between the 2 families. Now, something I didn't know while playing the game is that there's something called the Commission, and it's basically all 3 heads of the major families in a group to discuss and stop inter-family wars, and they also follow strict rules within this group. Remember when Luca offered me and Joe a spot in the family to pay them $5 grand? Well, that's actually against the rules of the Commission, and so is the drug trade, but hey, both families broke that already, so whatever. So now with this newfound knowledge, Mr. Falcone knows that if he retaliates and kills Clemente, it's allowed since Clemente tortured and kidnapped his men first. So we do just that, and that's what chapter 10 is about. Killing Clemente. We know that Clemente is holding a family meeting at the Empire Arms Hotel, and it gives us a perfect opportunity to sneak in and get rid of not just him, but all of his top guys. On the way to the hotel, we meet up with Marty, Joe's borderline little brother, even though they're not even related, and we agree that he's going to be our getaway driver after the hit. Arriving at the hotel, we leave Marty at the car and enter the garage entrance and put on some janitor disguises. As we made our way to the elevator, we were stopped by a member of the Clemente family who asked us to clean up a mess in the upstairs conference room for them. Perfect coincidence, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, we also passed Henry on the way there. Idiot didn't even notice it was us. Inside the conference room with the help of Joe, we planted the bomb underneath the table and strung the fuse outside the window to blow it up from the outside. Before leaving though, we did clean up the mess and went on our merry way to the roof. On the roof, we got into a quick little shootout where I didn't even die once, and got to the window washing platform to descend to the conference room. And once we got to the conference room floor, we grabbed the fuse and ascended back up to the roof to blow it up, but on the way back up to the top, the bomb just blows up prematurely and forces Vito and Joe to investigate. Now the good news is the bomb killed pretty much everyone in the room, except Clemente, because he was in the bathroom at the right time. Lucky ass dude. Now we have to chase Clemente through the hotel, fighting goon after goon until we made it to the garage and found this.
No! Fuck! They shot him! He's dead, Vito!
Joe, come on. We gotta get out of here. You can't help him now. Clemente's getting away.
Let's go. I'm gonna kill that fuck.
With Marty now dead, it only made Joe more bloodthirsty for revenge on Clemente. After chasing him to the city, we finally destroyed his car, and Joe put an end to this nonsense and killed Clemente once and for all. Later that evening, we get a call from the bartender asking for Vito to come down to the bar and help Joe since he's super drunk after Marty passed away. As we arrive, Vito tries calming down Joe, but in the process, he accidentally shoots the poor bartender and kills him. Now, of course, yet again, Joe is too drunk to take care of the body, so Vito drops him off his apartment, and we head to Mike's, which opposes the car and the body to clean up Joe's mess. Okay, now after driving back to Vito's house, we finally go to bed and end the chapter and get the Chapter 10 trophy. Long chapter. Chapter 11 started off by getting a visit from our old pal Henry outside our home. All Henry asks is if we could get a drink together and that Vito can put in a good word for him with the Falcons since he's unemployed after, you know. On the way to the Falcon, Henry does say he knew it was Vito and Joe that killed Clemente since he saw right through our disguises, but I call BS. At the Falcon, Eddie pulls aside and tells Vito about how the other crime family, the Vincis, are planning on making a move on us. So with some intel from Henry, we learned that Luca and Leo had a meeting to discuss the Vinci family turning on the Falcons, and now Alberto wants Leo dead to send a warning to the Vincis. Eddie offers this job to Vito, but with his relationship with Leo, he declines it, and then right after that, Eddie offers the same job to Henry, and if he completes it, he gets introduced into the family. This is also where our next chapter-specific trophy comes into play, where we need to save Leo before Henry kills him. So that's where this mission takes us, to Leo's mansion. As we arrive at the mansion, Leo acts all confused until he realizes what's at stake and hurries to leave. Now in order to make him out, you have to make it to this room, and let me tell you, that's a task in itself, since Leo's house is a damn maze. I mean, I was literally watching a guide on my second monitor, and I still couldn't find this room. Thank God Henry is stupid, you can easily avoid him, but man did it take me a long time. After actually making it into the room, we help Leo out of the balcony and get the trophy, and then we drive him to the nearest train station and get him out of town. Now the chapter is far from over, since when we get back home, we find Vito's sister waiting outside, and she tells us that her husband is alcoholic and parties all night. So now we have to go knock some sense into her husband. As we arrive at the apartment, we find Eric, her husband, and all we did is have a quick fight with him and knock some sense into him to stop drinking and spend more time with Francesca. After getting back to Vito's apartment, Francesca calls and says that she's glad that Vito did something for her, until Vito says if he ever lays a finger on her, he'll kill him. And that triggers Francesca, and she tells Vito to stay away from him forever. Little snowflake. Okay, now I think that's all the bad news for this chapter. But while Vito was sleeping, the stupid Irish pulled up to his house and torched it and forced me to run away and steal a car and drive back to Joe's. Joe was on board to kill all the Irish after Vito gets some clothes. Okay, with us now fully dressed, we pull up to their bar and get into a shootout with them inside. After killing all the Irish inside, we exit outside and find the last one trying to escape. So we just shoot him while he speeds off and get our last chapter-specific trophy after killing all the Irish. The chapters end with Joe giving Vito Marty's old apartment since he's dead and Vito needs a new place to stay. And after sleeping in the bed, we get the Chapter 11 trophy. With only 4 chapters left, the story started to heat up but also started going very fast. For Chapter 12, we had a quick meeting with Joe and Henry in the park about some drug deal that Henry wants to do off the books so the family wouldn't get mad. Now Vito and Joe do agree after Henry said that the deal will make over $75,000 in profit. Now of course we don't have enough money to make the deal, so we head over to Bruno, who is a loan shark who also has ties to the commission that I mentioned earlier. Bruno agrees to give us $35K, but he also wants an extra $20K by Friday since the deal is super high risk. Okay, now with the money we head over to the warehouse owned by the Triads and exchange a deal for some heroin. And the deal goes pretty smoothly until we exit the building and get jumped by fake cops and Triads who set us up for some free cash. This bust turned into a massive shootout fanning across all the warehouses. This fight took me a super amount of time to complete since I kept on dying at the same part, and whenever you die, you spawn back at the end of the cutscene. Super annoying. Please, Mafia, the old country, fix the checkpoints, my life is yours. After I killed all the Triads and the stupid fake cops, we exited into our car to the safe house and got the Chapter 12 trophy. Chapter 13 started off very grim after we got a call from Henry detailing how Falcone found out about our drug deal and is demanding a cut of our profit since we went behind his back and sold drugs. Now we are really short of money since we need to pay back Bruno, get some cash for ourselves, and now get $60,000 to Falcone. So Henry tells Vito and Joe to meet him at the park to discuss their options. As we arrive at the park, we find the Triads beating Henry with meat cleavers, and before we can check on Henry, we kill the attackers, and we find Henry dead. As we were investigating the scene, we see the leader of the Triads speeding away, and now we know what our next objective is: get revenge for Henry. We follow Wong to his restaurant, the Red Dragon, and storm into the restaurant to find answers. Now of course this enters us into another long shootout spanning across every room in the building. Near the end of the shootout in the basement, I got a trophy for getting 5 headshots in quick succession. Okay, at the end of this section we run into Wong in his office, we have a nice little chat.
You're dead, you slanty-eyed fuck!
What is it that you want?
What the fuck do you think we want?
We want to know why you had our friend killed. We also want the money you took from him.
I had no choice. Your friend was a government informer.
What the fuck are you talking about?
A contact inside the Federal Bureau of Narcotics told me that Henry Tomasino passed them information about our deal.
That's a fucking lie!
Whoa, whoa, whoa. You saying Henry was a rat?
Yes, but not anymore.
Fine, your choice.
Are you crazy?
So with that chat going south, we have to run out of Chinatown while it's swimming with cops. Back at Joe's, we discuss our predicament with Henry dead and no money for Bruno and Falcone. I also hear in the news that Henry is a federal informant. Joe just calls it a night and will call Vito in the morning, and that pretty much ends the chapter and gets us to chapter 13 trophy. With needing money desperately, we start the next chapter with a job from Eddie for another crime family in another city. It was just a routine hit and would net us some money from Eddie. So we drove over to his house and we entered into a cutscene.
Mr. Angelo,
Yes?
Mr. Salieri sends his regards.
After doing the hit, we were chased by the cops for a little while until I escaped them and got the trophy. With needing more money still, Joe and Vito split up to make some more. Vito first goes to Derek's to ask around if he has any jobs available. Derek said he has one job that he needs help with since his workers are on strike, refusing to work. The workers basically explained that they are on strike since Derek fired one of their friends after he broke both his hand, and all they want is Derek to give him a job back, and they will go back to work. Of course, Derek refuses it over and over again until one of the older dock workers speaks up after Derek says Vito's name and recognizes him since he worked with Vito's dad. The dock worker continues to insist that Derek and Steve did something to Vito's dad, and Steve finally speaks up and admits to drowning Vito's dad and killing him. This argument led to a shootout between Vito, Derek, Steve, and all his goons. We easily killed Steve on the outside after only a couple of tries, but once we got into the inside of the building, the bullshit started. The issue with the inside shootout is that Derek just spams Molotovs at you over and over again, and you can't even dodge them or you just get lit up. I still genuinely think this is impossible to do on hard mode, but whatever. I got to the point where I looked up a glitch on YouTube on how to avoid the basement altogether and go through his office. Now this method fared me much easier since he didn't throw Molotovs anymore, but he still shot his gun. After I finally killed Derek, man, this combat section, I got the Out for Justice trophy. With Derek and Steve dead, we found around 22k in Derek's desk, and that's close to enough for half of our money. We still need like 5k more, so I pulled up the mics and scrapped a couple of cards for the money, and got this trophy as well. Now with half of our money, we wait for Joe for a couple of hours to get in contact with us, but he never does, so we head down to the Falcon to ask Eddie if he knows anything.
Oh, what's going on?
Henry's dead.
What?
The fucking chinks hacked him to death in broad daylight.
Why?
So you don't know anything about it?
Well, Henry wanted to bring me in on some deal, but I passed. What happened?
Yeah, well, Henry was stupid. He was dealing dope with the tongs. He knew this was off limits and he got caught. Carlo let him off with a small fine and told him he'd forget about it. But the chinks double-crossed Henry and hacked him to pieces in the middle of the park.
Shit.
Henry wasn't working alone. Yesterday, some guys massacred a shitload of the chinks over in Chinatown. Now they figure it must have either been us or Vinci. They already started threatening Vinci. If this don't get settled fast, we're all in deep shit. You sure you don't know nothing about it?
Not a thing, Eddie, I swear.
Yeah? How about Joe?
Joe? Joe was with me last couple days.
Well, you're lucky then.
So that was a pointless conversation. Vito next goes to Giuseppe, who tells Vito that the Vinci's came over to Giuseppe's place and kidnapped Joe. Vito immediately heads over to the Vinci's bar to ask him questions. Literally right after we arrive, we get knocked out and we wake up on top of a skyscraper. This does lead into another long shootout that I'm not going to bore you with scripting since it's the same mold. After getting to the bottom of the building, we take Joe to El Greco since he's pretty beat up and needs help. The chapter ends with Vito heading over to Bruno to drop the money off to him and end the debt. Oh, and we also learn that Bruno is the guy that Vito's father borrowed money from, so that's something. Now it is finally time for... Chapter 15 started off by a surprise visit from Leo after Eddie tells Vito to meet Mr. Falcone at the observatory. Leo isn't too happy with what Vito did since he's been gone by nearly starting a war between the Mafia and the Triads. Leo also confirms that Henry was indeed a rat, and that's why Wong's men killed him in the park, and also why the feds are going after Mr. Falcone. And since Vito's a friend to Leo, he pulled a couple of strings to make Vito do things right and kill Carlo Falcone. As we arrive at the observatory, we get into, take a guess, a shootout. Now, I won't skip this one because it's the one I talked about so highly about earlier on in the video. I firmly believe this is the hardest of them all. This part you're seeing on the screen took me probably over 20 tries, and the entire shootout took me, drumroll please, 26 minutes.
Release me!
But I did finally make it into the main room and had the meeting of Falcone.
Well, look who it is. This is who they send? This is an insult. What'd they tell you, Vito? Take care of me and all's forgiven? You really think they're just gonna let you walk after everything you did? Then again, chumps like you never do think about the big picture. But your buddy Joe understands, don't you, Joe?
What the fuck is this?
I could ask you the same question. Loyalty's a funny thing, huh, Vito? No such thing as friendship in this business. Didn't your old pal Leo teach you that while you're sucking his cock back in the can? You're just a fucking pawn, Vito. That's all you ever were. You're gonna pay for it. Now, Joe.
Hey, if you're gonna pull that trigger, do it already.
What are you waiting for? Vito. Let's shoot this cocksucker. Remember what we talked
On
about,
tree.
Joe? You're gonna throw all that away? Do it!
2.
Now!
It is now time for the final shootout. This wasn't really hard at all, and I killed all the men pretty fast, but Falcone must have like 100 shields because he was a bullet sponge. But I did finally put him down and put an end to his BS. Oh, and also where we just killed Falcone was the last Playboy magazine location, so I easily picked that up and got the trophy. The game ends with Vito, Joe, and Leo talking outside the observatory steps, and this is also where we get 3 ending trophies. Finish the story on hard, finish the story in general, and finish him. The last cutscene ended in a drive that we cemented in gaming history.
Alright. So what's the big secret?
Hey, what the hell's going on? Where they taking Joe?
Sorry, kid. Joe wasn't part of our deal.
Okay, now it's time for stage 2, the cleanup. Unlike Mafia 1 and Mafia 3, there is no free roam in this game after the stories, so you have to go in the chapter select in order to do it. The first trophy I got was for just buying a luxury suit. Yeah, I'm not kidding, it was just that easy. The next 3 were all car related, and the first was for fully upgrading a car. I swear to this earlier with Joe, but whatever. The second one was for driving 30 different cars. Now this sounds like it would suck, but at this point I already driven over 27 different cars somehow, so... And at the end of the game, the devs just gave you like 10 new cars, so it makes this trophy so easy to do since all you do is grab them from the garage and pull them out and get this free trophy. And the third one was for driving 125 miles per hour in a car. Now this one also was super easy, and I just grabbed a maxed out car and got it in a straightaway. The next 2 popped both at the same place, back at Derek's. The first for selling 5 vehicles to Derek. The last one gave me some trouble because you can only sell certain cars to him, and the certain cars you need weren't spawning for me, of course, so it did take me some time to complete, but I did eventually deliver my last car and got the trophy. The next trophy for killing 30 total enemies with melee attacks. This one is pretty straightforward, and you don't even have to kill actual enemies, just broke-ass dock workers. I just ran on the docks for like 10 minutes, knocking out every dock worker I saw until I popped the trophy. I then had to drive for 10 minutes while being wanted by the cops. Now, there are definitely far easier ways of doing this, but what I did was I just stole armored SWAT van and just sat in a corner for 10 minutes and got the trophy. The next trophy needed me to rob 5 stores under 5 minutes. Now, you might think this is easy, but it's not. Sometimes you can go in smoothly and you can rob 3 to 4 stores without any issues, but then sometimes the cops catch you or the civilians decide to be heroes and pull out a gun to shoot you. I did eventually do it since on the run I did, no one fought back, and the cops didn't linger for 5 minutes, and I got the trophy. The next 2 trophies are pretty similar and require vehicles. The first was for driving a total of 50 miles in one vehicle. Now, I severely underestimated how long this would take to do. In the real world, it would take like 20 to 30 minutes to drive 50 miles at the speed I was going, but in game, nearly an hour. All I did was drive back and forth in the highway, and the trophy finally popped. The second was also annoying and it needed me to drive at 30 miles per hour for over 10 minutes. Now there is a speed limiter in Mafia 2 and it usually caps your speed at around 40 miles per hour, so if you just keep it on, it's pretty easy if you just avoid all the cops and the AIs of course. I'm not gonna lie, these time related trophies in these games really make you realize how long 10 minutes actually is. But anyway, here's a trophy. The last trophy of course was the collectible trophy, and not just any collectible, the wanted posters. If you scroll on Reddit, every single person will tell you how bad this platinum is because of these wanted posters. But I don't think they understand the pain doing Valhalla's collectibles. There are a total of 189 wanted posters since an definitive edition release. Hangar 13 thought it'd be a great idea and added 30 more. I mean, just like every other collectible in any other game, it's not really hard, but it's just super time consuming. I think it took me around 3 to 4 hours to get all 189 of them while using a guide. I would 100% recommend watching YouTube, a podcast, or just listening to music or something, cause damn. When I did finally find my last one, I got the card sharp trophy and the platinum. And that is Mafia 2's platinum trophy. This game is a fun time since it's not like 50 hours like the other games. I can easily recommend this platinum for how easy it is and how good a Mafia game Mafia 2 is. I also really didn't run into any bugs like everyone else says, but that's that. If I had to rate the entire game, I'd give it like an 87. Critics are super wrong on this. And if I had to rate the platinum, I'd give it like a 95. Not 100 because of the wanted posters, but yeah. The next video coming out is Doom of Dark Ages, and that one shouldn't take long to complete since I already popped the platinum for it. You're on the road to 200 subs, so I'd appreciate any and all support. Like, comment, share, mean the world to me, and that's pretty much it. Later.